Hey all, Tony Bing here, hello and welcome to another in-depth review for Marvel Strike Force. Now something a bit different character wise for tonight's video, we will be having a look at Scientist Supreme. Now in the video we start off by looking at a general overview that includes where you go to unlock her and also the tags she has. We follow that up by having a look at her stats, abilities are up next, we then have synergies, and then finishing up we see where she places in the tier list as well. But we start off the video with the general overview. So we have a really quite unique character here with Scientist Supreme. Now she is a villain and she's classed as support, which would be a conventional healer class, but she's far from a conventional healer. Now looking at the tags, it is villain, global, tech, support and also aim. So she can synergise to an extent with the aim team, although it's a team that I wouldn't recommend using, but we will cover that more as the video goes on. And then she's also got the tech tag, but the only real character I can think of tech wise that synergises with other ones would be Iron Man with his crit buff, which he doesn't need because she is a support class in the first instance. That's the tags anyway, so nothing really special there. When we look at where you go to unlock it, it's Cosmic 2.9 and also Nexus 7.9. It isn't unlocked just yet. I imagine that'll be pretty tough when it is actually unlocked. But with that covered, we'll now have a look at her stats. For the stats here then, we have 6 in total to look at. It's 3 offensive stats and 3 defensive stats, and they're rated on a scale from A to F. And the way I come up with this scale is I looked at all the stats for various different characters and minimum and maximum, removed the outliers, and then I broke the difference down from the lowest stat up to the highest stat into the 6 different categories to give you the ratings. Now the first set of stats we'll look at anyway will be the offensive stats. Her offensive stats are pretty underwhelming, but that generally is the case when it does come to support classes. Now the damage is way down at F, so it's really low there. Speed is D, so she does need help in that regard. You need to pair her up with someone that has speed up such as Black Widow or Merc Lieutenant, and then focus is D. Now that's not very great because she has a few debuffs in her kit and there's less chance of them actually applying because of that lower focus. That is a bit of a pity there, but next up we'll have a look at her defensive stats. When we look at her defensive stats, she fares much better than she does from an offensive perspective. So health is way up at A and she's got a surprisingly large health pool for a support class. The armour is C, which is not too bad, it's just mid-range there. And our resistance, it says A, but it's actually A+, because this is one of the outliers that I did have to remove when I was calculating the stats. So our resistance is exceptionally high. But one thing that's quite strange with this is resistance means that you should be less susceptible to debuffs like stun and slow and so on, but I find when I'm playing against her I have no problem applying them, and also part of her kit is actually all about applying debuffs on herself and then flipping them. So for that reason, if her resistance was high, it would seem that she wouldn't be able to apply those debuffs. I think something is not working correctly with that, and it all is really a bit odd, to be honest. Do let me know in the comments below if you get any observations in regards to how her resistance is working anyway. But with the stats now covered, we will have a look at her abilities. For the abilities here then, we have 4 in total that we will look at. It's the basic, the special, ultimate and also the passive. When I show off each of them I will bring up a tooltip that shows off the skill when it is maxed out, gives you an idea how the character is at max level, but what I'll do is I'll let you know if it's a skill that's worth actually maxing out as well. So the first one we look at, this is the passive, this is called Mad Science. So on turn you have a 25% chance to revive an ally with 20% of max health, and because she has an aim affiliation, aim allies revive with 30% of max health instead. Now if you were to take this to level 3, which is a level I would recommend, you retain the 25% chance to revive, and all that happens is you restore them with 15% max health if they're a normal ally, or 25% max health if they're an aim ally instead there. For the basic, we have a skill called Serum Pistol. So with this one you attack the primary target for 160% damage and at max level you can apply 2 random negative effects to the primary target, so that is pretty nice. But in a moment we'll tell you the downside of it. Now, in regards to how high you want to take this, if you max it out you apply the 2 random effects. If you take it to level 6 you only apply 1. If you take it to level 5 you only have a 50% chance of applying 1. So you would really want to max this out. Now, onto the downsides, and we'll talk about these often with Scientist Supreme unfortunately, is although you've got the 100% chance to apply the 2 random negative effects, they have to pass a check on the particular target as well. So that will look at your focus, which is on the low side if we think back to stats, and then look at the enemy's resistance as well. So you've not actually got 100% chance for it to apply, and with a low focus you'll find that even if you invest heavily in this skill you won't always be debuffing the enemy with it. When we look at the special skill, this is when we can start to see some cracks in our kit with how it all works together or how it doesn't work together. Now, this skill is called Field Trials. It takes 4 turns to charge and comes fully charged, so it is a unique skill and I do like what they've tried to do, but it just doesn't work. So with this you convert 4 negative effects on each ally into the equivalent positive effect. Now, if you're going to go all in Scientist Supreme, then you may as well max this particular one out, so you're converting as many effects as possible and making full use of a unique mechanic. Now, where it falls down is the fact that you can use this on the first turn. You generally want to pair it up with other aim minions. The problem is 3 out of the 5 aim minions actually are slower than her, so what that means is she'll get her turn on the first turn before they do, and before they can apply debuffs to themselves, because that's what the aim minions all do on their special attack, is they apply debuffs and she can flip them. But she's going to have her first turn before they've got the chance to do that. And you've got her speed, because it is middle of the road, it means that quite a lot of enemies will potentially be acting after her if they're applying debuffs, and we know the fact that Quake doesn't actually apply slow on her first turn either, so it means you can't really do anything with this skill on the first turn at all, even though it comes fully charged. For the ultimate then, we have a skill that definitely has the potential to be interesting, but again I don't think it's been executed correctly. This is called Retro Vaccination. It takes 3 turns to charge and comes fully charged, so you could use it at the start of a fight, and I believe that is the general idea. Now, you heal all allies for 3500 health and 5% of the character's max health. The 5% can be not bad because of our high health pool. And then all allies and all enemies will receive 1 to 3 random negative effects for 2 turns. Now, if you were leveling her up, take this up to level 6, because the only change in it is that you heal all allies for 2000 rather than 3500 when it comes to health. Now, when we look at the problems I have with this skill, there's 3 separate issues. The first one is the fact that you would be using this on the first turn, because with Scientist Supreme you want to get the debuffs up as quickly as possible to then flip them. But that means at the start of a fight you're using her only heal straight away when you most likely don't need it. Now, the next issue is if you're saving the heal for when you do need it, you're also potentially going to be applying something like bleed onto your characters when it comes to the random negative effects as well. So you'll be gaining a small amount of health, but you could be losing up to 10% health on the bleed, and you'll be slowed and maybe even stunned as well. Now, finally, you've also got the issue that when she fires this skill up, and I actually like when she does it as AI, is that you've got all the debuffs everywhere, but the problem with that is that if she's then slowed or stunned, and despite her high resistance it can happen very often, then that's her out the match and she can't use her special skill to then flip them all into positives. So not great when it comes to the abilities there, but what we'll do with all those covered, we'll now have a look at her synergies. When it comes to characters she can work well with, I had a good look through the roster and I was hoping I would find some characters that could possibly work in unexpected ways due to her unique mechanics. Now, an absolute push, the only one I could really come up with outside of the minions would be Iron Fist. On his ultimate he'll apply defense down to himself and then she could flip that, but that's me really stretching coming up with that. In regards to the aim minions, you've got the fact there's 5 of them. On their specials they will apply debuffs and then she can use her special to flip them, but you've also got the issue that 3 out of the 5 minions are slower than her, meaning that you can't do this on the first turn to really get everything started on her. So really disappointing when we look at characters she can team up with. Now for the next section we'll check out characters you want to avoid. When it comes to characters you want to avoid, the first one we look at here is Black Widow, and this would apply to any other heroes that have stun as well, because when she uses her ultimate skill and applies all the debuffs on herself, if she's stunned, or worse still if she's knocked out, then that's it, it's game over. You've got all those debuffs stuck on your teammates and you've got no way of actually removing them. Now next up you do have Doctor Strange, because what would happen is, let's say she goes through her full rotation and she applies the debuffs, she flips them, she makes them into buffs, and then Doctor Strange in one move could negate all that, turn them back into debuffs again, and you've not actually got your special charge, so you're in trouble there. And then finally you've got Jessica Jones, and you're using that ultimate to apply the negative effects to enemies. You're applying them to yourself as well, but the fact that applying to enemies is one of the saving graces, but Jessica Jones could actually just cleanse all of them as well there. So yeah, really not a great character, and there is quite a lot of ways that you could give her a lot of problems. I actually really like seeing one in an enemy team, because what I do is I wait around until she casts all the debuffs, and then I either nuke her down or just simply stun her, and it makes the rest of the match nice and easy. Now with all that covered anyway, what we'll do is we'll see where she places in the tier list. For this tier list then we have 5 different ratings, the most powerful one being a Mega, that's on the left hand side, and as we work our way from left to right the characters get progressively weaker until we're all the way down at level 1. Now when it comes to Scientist Supreme, I've covered her because I've actually had requests to cover a low tier hero, and if you've not guessed already, she is a low tier hero. Now I would say that sadly in her current state she would be a level 1 character, so this is a character that I really can't recommend you put any of your precious resources into at all. Now the first big issue I really have with her is that to make the most of her you have to run her with a full minion team, and minions don't have ultimate skills, and 9 times out of 10 unless your name is Hand Sentry or Merc Lieutenant, then you're not even close to competing with the named heroes within the game. You also have the fact with her minions that because their attack speed is all over the place, you can't really optimally use her special skill. Now a way to fix that, because I don't want this video to be all doom and gloom, but if they were to have the attack speed of her minions higher than herself, that would mean on the first turn they could all use their specials, apply their debuffs, and then she's got the option of using her special to flip the debuffs on all those different characters. That would be nice if you could do that, but of course you can't, hence her rating. Now the next big issue I have is just how the skills actually work together. The fact that you've got the special skill that you can't really use on the first turn properly, and then you have the ultimate skill and you have the debuffs being merged in with the heal that are conflicting, because generally when you want to use a heal you don't want to use a debuff on yourself. And we've also got the fact as well that, as mentioned, that if you do apply that debuff and then you're burned down or you're stunned, then your entire team is in trouble because of one action that one character has taken. Now despite all this, I do actually like what they have tried to do with her, and I want to see more characters along the lines of this. We don't want everyone just to be standard DPS characters, we want ones that you have to play about with. However, no amount of playing about with Scientist Supreme in her current form is really going to see any kind of results as far as I can tell. Now what you could do to improve on this is just ideas I'm throwing out again to finish up the video on a nice positive note. Is you've got the minions, if we were to up the speed on them, then they could get their debuffs available before she actually has the option to flip them all at the same time in one turn. You've also got the fact that potentially if she was immune to debuffs, it'd be nice from a flavour perspective because of her costume and the helmet, and then it means that she wouldn't be stunned or slowed, and she could actually flip any debuffs at the perfect moment as well. And then finally, I do think there has to be a bit of moving about between the special and the ultimate. I don't personally feel that the heal being in with adding the negative effects to yourself works, then I would like to see that potentially being in with the flipping of the buffs instead. So you could use your special and you could apply the negative effects to yourself and allies, and then when the ultimate comes around you can heal and you're pulling up your health a bit from the debuffs, and you're also flipping the buffs as well. But that's just some ideas. Let me know in the comments below what you would do to improve Scientist Supreme yourself, and I hope, despite this being an obscure character, it had been an interesting video to see, one where I have certainly been more critical of them. So thanks always for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.